Welcome back, my Duelist friends. Casual Duelist here. It is finally Friday, the end of another wonderful week. And today is going to be my take on Wednesday's build that was actually submitted to us by a duelist by the name of Anthony. And the build was using this skill card, the Iron Grit, which makes Gearfried the Iron Knight unaffected by card effects, and it plays it in a tech form that is just crazy cool. So let's go over the deck as I've changed it. And you guys aren't going to see too much changed in the main deck because there wasn't a lot I could change. So again, first and foremost, we do play the single Banisher. Banisher of Radiance, good stats, great effect. Anything go into the discard, banish it instead. Next card, 3 DD Survivors. Why? Because every time they're banished while they're face up, they come back during the end phase. Now, the same one cannot bring itself back twice in a turn, but you can resolve 2 of these at the same time. If you had 2 of them face up, they got banished in the same turn. So that is fair. We dropped Freed the Matchless General. This way we could drop this deck down a couple cards. So we're going to go straight to Gearfried. And again, Gearfried can't be equipped. If he is, it's immediately destroyed by his own effect. Plus, he's no longer affected by any other card effects. So if you had something like, let's say, Fusion Blade, Fusion Sword, Murasame Blade, the Fusion Sword does not work. It will not be destroyed, but it's not going to give Gearfried the additional 800 that it normally would. This is all fine and well. And then we're going to round out with the 2 captains because this portion of the deck, super strong. It's a great lineup. It gives us 9 characters. Again, I think we're just playing a 22 card build this time. Going into the spells, still the 1 Book of Moon. You changed my mind on this. In this deck, book only needs to be at 1. And that's because you were using the Grand Convergence. So when we tag this up with the Macrocosmos, we can go ahead and we can destroy all monsters on the field while throwing 300 points at the opponent. Don't forget those 300 points. Sometimes that matters. And during our playtesting yesterday, it did. It made games just that little bit easier to win. And it was good. It also helped us trigger out the survivors. And due to the Iron Grit, Gearfried was unaffected. So while everything else is collapsing into nothing, he stands tall and proud. We did keep the single reinforcement of the army. We kept the 2 copies of Shrink because that was really clutch. And I loved using the United We Stand. Again, I said this Wednesday. I said, with Captain, just base Captain. This is a 2K monster. Captain and a Friend, 28. Already beats Dark Magician. Do this to Survivor. He goes up to 26. You do this to Banisher of Radiance to make it a little more permanent. Then I'll take it up to 24. Good card, great card, guys. Again, it's not really a Gearfried deck if you're not playing with Blast with Chains. I was kind of tempted to take one of these out for a Book of Moon, blah, blah, blah. If I did do that, it was going to change the side deck, so I chose not to. I already changed it enough myself. And then, of course, 3 copies Macrocosmos. So really, the only thing I did, Anthony, was I took out the Freeds. And again, for those of you who don't know what Freed is, let me just pull the copy because it's still sitting here on the table. It is a monster that would negate any spell effect that targets him specifically. Then as it resolves, you destroy the card. And during the draw phase, we can reinforcement of the army anyway. We've only got a couple of choices. Honestly, it's those 3 monsters, Captain, Gearfried, and Survivor. And there is no reason to really try to tribute. It's actually taking you away from where you want to go. I understand that this meant that you were able to leave the other reinforcement of the army in the side deck. But really, I think that playing for the tribute monster was just slowing you down a little bit. And I think it's going to take your deck from good to great. If you guys all hold still just a second, I'm going to go ahead and let you guys pause, screenshot, take your notes, whatever it is that you guys need to do. And then I'll be back with the rest of this deck. So just a second, my friends. Now, the side deck, I think, had a lot of cool potential. Now, number 1, you showed me a couple cool things. You showed me how you were using Share the Pain. Excellent card when used properly, and you did it. But I got some other ideas. So I love the double DD Warrior Lady. I do love that. If I was going to change anything here, it would have been maybe to add like a Book of Moon to the main deck, take out one of the Blast with Chains, and set it over here into the side. That's really the only move that I would have made there. But again, like I said, like you gave me such a good base to work with that you made it almost zero work. It was just fun to play test. I changed your one-off. We dropped out your reinforcement of the army. So what we did was we changed 2 offerings to the doomed. Now, while I don't mind a nightmare wheel, and it works, I don't mind it, I feel like not eliminating the threat immediately could lead to the opponent maybe getting a rally. And I feel like this, as again, especially if we had kept Frieden, this would have been okay. But to be able to decide between reinforcing by grabbing a monster card or just letting the natural draw happen and see what happens, like that could have been cool. But this will helpfully just eliminate the threat. It also pressures the opponent into thinking that there's more back row objects than there really needs be, because again, your grand convergence was a quick play. So a lot of our cards were able to activate and get them off the field. Offerings to the doomed, not very different. Since we freed up some of the extra space, I did want to talk to you about Lost Winds. Now, I get it, but I love this trap card, and I love this trap card for so many reasons. Right now, we're dealing with, again, formats where special summoning is way easier to do than it used to be. And this specifically targets special summoned cards. Because again, if they're not special summoning them, chances are they're not beating Gearfried. And if they're not beating Gearfried, then there's no reason for you to need some of the other cards that you were running anyway. It was just you basically trying to eliminate defensive cards, maybe, to get Gearfried to go in at those juicy hit points. Now, the way the Lost Wind is going to do for us is not only are we going to have the original attack of the monster that gets special summoned, if it had effects, those no longer exist. So the big bad effect monsters, the things that have like, your opponent put together, they went all out to get the Ojama King. Well, what if we just said, no, he doesn't collapse anything? Like, okay, cool, I guess. Same thing with Knight. There's a bunch of other cards. If your opponent played any special summon card off Waking the Dragon, anything like Cyber End Dragon that has piercing in 4,000 can go down to 2k without piercing. Blue Eyes Ultimate doesn't have an effect, but I'd rather face, 2250 instead of 4,500. And Lost Winds can come back and we can use them multiple times. So again, the faster the opponent's deck, the better the Lost Wind is going to work out for you. You guys could always substitute in some Mind Crushes too. If you know the meta that you're in, Mind Crush is a heck of a trap card. It just does so good. And then last but not least, because I do have all these other things popping out of the back row, single copy Waking the Dragon. The one thing I noticed is you didn't have an extra deck, and I advocate for everybody to play this just so they can have an extra deck. And you may not think that that's important, but when your opponent sees the extra deck, and you have a deck, you've got your extra deck, that they show you that hey, I got my side deck too. It's very helpful because the opponent's either going to think, wow, they're playing an extra deck when they don't need one. They might not know what they're doing. Or they feel the threat of this card, but they keep seeing all the other cards. And even if you don't own Waking the Dragons, and there's no reason not to, because it's less than $1 for a playset, you could literally just threaten the extra deck anyway. And then anything else in the main deck. So, okay, you want to get the Banisher of the Radiance to the field fast. Okay, cool, do it. Same thing with Survivors. Same thing with Gearfried. You really get those options, but again, it allows you to play the rest. And again, the rest is like you want to have the biggest fusion monster that's in the game, because maybe you just need to go and hit him once. Okay, maybe that's the game. Maybe that's the move. Same thing with Cyberblader. She's got 3 different effects based on how many monsters your opponent has, whether it's 1, 2, or 3. It's everything from doubling over, not being able to be destroyed in battle, and even having the opponent's activated card effects be negated. Like, it is a crazy good card. And again, like, we got this in commons, we got this in a GX box. Like, the most expensive card I think in this whole thing is the Blue Eyes, because I think everything else came out of decks and everything else, and well, that doesn't really make them expensive. Waking the Dragons is one of those cards that I think is still only out of a set. Offerings, I think, was out of a structure deck. But if you bought all the structure decks, you kind of have it. So that really does make like Blue Eyes the most expensive card in most of my builds. I've mentioned the Cyber End Dragon. You might as well have it on your side of the field too. Because again, these are all cards that can be special summoned through the effect of Waking the Dragon. And this is going to help you build your board. Same thing with Destiny and Dragoon. I mean, this is right here. This is not only a spot destruction, destroy a monster. If it's face up, you get to do damage based on the attack value. And yeah, okay, you skip your turn that turn as far as your battle phase is concerned. But you're guaranteed damage. You're guaranteed to break a card. It's awesome. The Ojama King, might as well make it harder for your opponent to make a comeback play after you perform something like the, what was that spell again? Because I wanted Convergence. I was about to say Macro, and I knew I was wrong. But then you can go ahead, you can pop the field, and you can go into the King, and because your opponent went ahead to smack it, and because of Resolution Order, you get to destroy all the monsters beforehand, and then the King jumps out. Why not? And then your opponent doesn't get any monsters. And then, of course, Thousand Eyes Restrict. Turn their biggest strengths against them. I love seeing Waking the Dragon, even if it's only at 1. I love seeing an extra deck. I love seeing utility side decks. And again, maybe the side deck that you use is better. I just think this gives you more options in the long run. And hopefully you enjoy this. Hopefully this is okay. You don't hate it. And hopefully everybody else enjoys it too. If everybody has enjoyed this, consider supporting the channel. The easiest and best things that you guys can all do is go out, like, comment, subscribe. And outside of that, I just want you guys to have an excellent day. An excellent weekend. We're getting started. And last Sunday, we were supposed to talk about this card. And we didn't. So we're going to do that this Sunday, because they shouldn't be dropping another ban list on us yet. So enjoy this. And you guys have an excellent day and a great weekend, okay? See you later.